Alright, we're just a couple hours out from Season 6 of Marvel Rivals being live in the game. Deadpool coming to the game and everything getting some adjustments. So, in lieu of that, I want to do something I haven't seen from anyone yet. A way too late tier list. You know? You get so many way too early tier lists. Why not a way too late one? In lieu of Season 5.5 wrapping up, and Season 6 patch notes and everything being revealed, and us knowing what's coming, and what changes are being made, why not just get a review, talk about some of this stuff? So I'm going to go through it. Now, something I don't see a lot of other people actually talk about is how they really rank things, as in what they consider each rank to really represent. So I'm just going to burn through that really quickly myself. For me, I feel like A tier is just the consistency tier. Like, you can pick them no matter what, no matter what map, no matter what team up, no matter what is going on, you can get pretty decent value out of this. S is like the best of the best. B is basically one step away. Like, maybe you need a team up, maybe you need a map to really get you to be really consistent and get a lot of value out. But you need something, right? You're not there yet. You need something to take you all the way and actually get you to the point that you provide a lot of value to your team, right? B is like one step away, basically. For me, C is 2 steps away or more, but you can still provide a lot of value to your team. D is basically don't play. It just takes too much investment at that point to really be worth anything. And for me, F is failed. This character is a flop. This character does not work at the moment in the meta at all. And this final tier, ones above all, is something for me. I'm going to fully rank every character type. I'm going to say who is the best strategist, who is the best vanguard, who is the best duelist. And at the very end, I will have the best 1-1-1 for ones above all. Deadpool is a placeholder, because he's about to show up in the game. So, with all that being said, I say we get started. Adam Warlock is a really hard place to start. I'll make this quick so you don't have to deal with my robotic voice. But Adam Warlock, I think, belongs in B, honestly. Out of every character, I think he belongs in B. I think he really works well in a triple support lineup. I think he works really well when he's not being dove. Granted, dive isn't really that big of a threat this season, but he works really well in the triple support where he doesn't have to do all the healing. He doesn't have to, keep himself as the only person to keep himself alive, right? He has some help in that regard. And he can use the offense that, him and Mantis sport so well to really, charge his ultimate better than just letting it happen passively, right? But without a qualifier, he kind of doesn't stay consistent, He's not getting any changes for next season, so if triple support stops being meta, he may fall. But for the moment, I think B is a good place to put him, because I do think he's one step away, one qualifier away from being really consistent and providing a lot of value for the team. I won't go that in depth into every character, I'm sure, but I feel like Adam is a difficult place to start. Black Panther is a tragedy. Black Panther is what the F tier is for, unfortunately. The dev team failed Black Panther. They really did. His cooldowns are way too long now. He's way too loud. Strategists are absurdly powerful at the moment. And, he can't really do anything. Right? He has a team up with the worst tank in the game. It doesn't really do much of anything. If the team up pops, you're pretty much already dead. Right? Black Panther, there's, anyone in the game is a better choice on your team than Black Panther right now. It's sad to say, but it's true. Yeah, he's getting some reworks. I'm happy for it. I'm glad they're doing the whole, you get a cooldown when you do your ultimate, but I don't know if that's going to do anything. The mild spear toss increase, I don't know if that's going to do anything, but hopefully it does. If it doesn't, then we'll see him here again next season. Now, someone who's not in F tier is Black Widow. I am so glad that Black Widow is starting to get the love that she deserves, okay? She is not a terrible character. She's not a bad character, okay? I put her in C because, to me, she is a couple steps removed from from giving a lot of value to your team, okay? If you have a Mantis and she knows what she's doing, she gives a lot of value, right? If you have a team that pushes when you get a good headshot, you apply a lot of value. But there's too many qualifiers that you need to really do what you need to do and provide the value you want to for your team. So for that reason, she just has to stay in C. Captain America, he's got a big A on his forehead. I think that's where he belongs, I think he's the perfect example of consistency, really. I feel like he, it doesn't really matter the lineup, it doesn't really matter the map, it doesn't really matter who they have for support, who they have for anything. You go, you jump into their back line, you bully someone. If the strategists are too good, you go to the DPS. You just try to get your attention, their attention off of healing the tanks and healing who they should be, and fighting you. Once you get your attention off, your team can push in, and you just open a lot of space for them. They just jump out, Obviously, you can have a whole team swap for you, but that's a ton of value that you provide. If a whole team is swapping against you, that's crazy. It's crazy value. We got Cloak and Dagger next. This is a tricky one. I'm struggling between A and B, because I know a lot of people debate between her and Adam, who's the worst, who's the worst support in the game, but I don't know, I feel like Adam's kind of sitting in a wheelchair, and Cloak and Dagger, I guess only has 2 pairs of legs between them, but you get what I mean. They have some movement abilities, they can actually do stuff. I feel like at the moment, Cloak and Dagger is probably A, because there are a lot of, there's a lot of far distance characters. There's a lot of characters that try to dive. There are some flyers that are good right now. Cloak and Dagger helps being able to heal anyone, right? You don't need a ton of skill. I'm in Plat 2. I know that I'm not absolutely at the peak of the game, but I do get an idea, and I have seen a lot of content for this game. Cloak and Dagger is not as bad as people say she is. She's getting a lot of buffs. I think she's going to be incredible next season, but I really don't think she's that bad right now. I think she's pretty solid in an A. Yeah, I think she's pretty consistent. She can apply a lot of value to your team. Doctor Strange is pretty consistent, but he just doesn't do enough, I think. And I hate to say it, but I think he just doesn't do enough, tier A. I don't want to put him in B, but man, does he need something. I'm glad they're helping him and giving him better movement and changing stuff like that, because he really needs it. And also increasing his damage, because he also needs that. The damage nerf that they gave him really did not help. But does he deserve B? Like, I'm gonna put him there for now. I don't know if he'll stay, but at the moment I think he will sit there. Just because he can be countered by so much. You know, the Thing can absolutely shut him down. Emma can shut him down. Magneto even can shut him down. Thor can shut him down. Rogue absolutely just tears him a new one. Even Hulk, and that's crazy to say. You know? The best thing about him really is the portal at the moment. But he's about to be changed, you know, like I said, hours away. He's about to be changed, so he's gonna get a lot better. Groot, man, where I'm at, there's not a lot of Groot, and I don't see a ton of Groot in high-level lobbies either, which is weird to me, because I think he's really good, I just don't see him, you know, played enough. I wish he were. I wish he were played more. I wish he had, you know, I wish he had better team-ups, honestly. But, you know, the amount of time that he's getting played, the amount of teams that he's actually being used in, I just don't know if it justifies putting him in S. Like, I'm looking at some other characters that are really good in S and really deserve it. I'm going to put him in S for now, because I think he has the capability, and the CC immunity is crazy on him. It absolutely shuts down basically all of his counters, you know? But I'm going to say now that if S tier gets too crowded, Groot's probably going to be the first to go. Hawkeye. Hawkeye's good. Hawkeye's consistent. You know, he's inconsistent, but he's pretty consistent at the same time, if that makes any sense, right? You know, he's consistently inconsistent. You know, you get really great value in like 5 seconds, and then you'll die 5 times before you get another kill, you know? I've been playing a Hawkeye a lot recently, and that's, you know, that's just how it goes with him. But the amount of actually, you know, the amount of value he provides in the time that he does do really well, I think warrants an A or maybe a B. I just don't know if there's really, I don't know what you give him that increases his value to A, you know? I'm gonna put him in B. That might change though, because I am a big fan of Hawkeye. That could just be bias because I've been playing him a lot, but I think you do get a lot of value out of him. The inconsistency is something that, you know, makes me worry, but I think you get a lot of value out of the guy, and I don't want to put him that low. Hella, let's do what we're all thinking. Crazy team up. 2 or 3 shots, anyone, you know, that's below 300 health. Need I say more? I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's pretty cut and dry. You know, I don't think anyone's arguing about that. The Hulk is also a tragedy. He's not as bad as Black Panther. I think Black Panther is really, really, you know, drudging through the mud. But I think, like what I said before, right? B tier is like, you need one thing to get really consistent, to bring a lot of value. C tier is like, you need 2 or more things to really get a lot of value, you know? D tier is you need so much to get a lot of value, you need so many specific things, right? It's so niche of a thing, right? It's so niche of a character, right? Like, Hulk is good, okay? If you have the time on the guy, if you know what you're doing, if you have the experience, and you're going up against the right team, you can do so much on Hulk. You can get so much value on Hulk. I'm in Plat 2, as I said, and he dominates sometimes. But it's sometimes, right? And you have to... Basically, all the ones I see that do that are Lord Hulk. So, he's a difficult character. You have to have a ton of time on the guy. You have to be going up against a team that's not running, you know, something like Thing or Emma or, you know, anyone that can really absolutely shut him down, right? And your ult is basically a death button, right? Because, you know, right now he's not CC immune to anything. You pop ult, you get frozen, you get slept, Angela just takes you off the map. You know, it's unfortunate. It really is. I think he's just been power crept, and the stuff you would need to ban, the stuff that you would need to have on your team, it's just too much to have to worry about, you know, trying to make the guy work. I just don't think it's worth it, you know? I just don't feel like it's worth it. Yeah, it's sad, but I feel like Hulk needs to be in D tier. Iron Fist. Iron Fist... either B or C, I think. I'm gonna say B because I don't think he takes as much investment as Black Widow does. I think he can hold his own better than Black Widow can. You know, I feel like he just needs to go up against the right comp, and he's kind of good to go, honestly. But again, it's like, if you're basically anything that's anti-dive, you kind of are stopped, right? You basically have to ban things, you have to shut them down. Like, I think he needs to be in C. Because I don't think he's 1 degree away from A. Right? That's kind of my mindset for B tier, is like, you're 1 degree, you're something. You're one thing being banned, you're one team up, you're one good map, you're one good something away from an A tier. And that's the case for all 3 of them in B tier, right? Like Adam Warlock, triple support, right? That's all you need, and Adam Warlock absolutely dominates. Doctor Strange, you know, just, you need to not have another tank that's better than you, right? Another tank that just completely dominates and pushes you in too far. If you don't have that, you're amazing, right? And you can do all the stuff that you need to do. That's basically all you need for Strange. Hawkeye, you just need people, you know, you need some good sight lines and or good aim. Either one of those things really gets you great value. Iron Fist, you kind of need to be going up against characters that can be dove, and you kind of need to, you know, have a lot of time and know what you're doing on the character to get a lot of value. If you don't have those 2 things, you know, he's just pillow fist and just gets countered, honestly. I know that they're changing him. I hope what they do helps him, makes him, you know, go back to a B or even an A. But I really don't see that he's very threatening at the moment. I really don't think he's that bad, or that good of a pick, even. Yeah, I don't see him. I don't think he's worth the pick. I think there's much better duelists. Speaking of much better duelists, I think Iron Man's kind of in the same boat. He's very slow, he's very clunky, he can be shot out of the sky by Hela, by Phoenix, by Bucky, even, you know, like very easily, by Punisher. He's just very slow. You know, you can do poke damage from a very far distance and get some good splash stuff, but I just don't think he's gonna bring the value that you want, right? His ultimate is really good. I think his ultimate is probably the best part of him. And his beam can actually melt tanks. Especially in my elo. His beam really does melt tanks. But I mean, besides that, like, to use the beam you have to be up close. If you're up close, you're dead. You know, it's a bad combo. I don't think he's quite as bad as Hulk. I don't think he needs as much investment, you know, to make work as Hulk does. That could change, you know, depending on how the rest of this list pans out, he could go down to D. But I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because he does have certain use cases like going against tanks and, you know, having an off angle and really just tearing people apart in that regard. So I'm going to leave him there, and we'll see how things go from here. The War Criminal. A or B, I think. You know, he's got the cooldown on his swim. I mean, that was a couple months ago at this point, but that's still the most notable change that's been made for him in however long. I think he's either A or B. I think probably B, actually, because you're not going to want to use him in double support. I think B fits, because you're not going to want to use him in double support. Kind of like Adam Warlock. His ultimate is just a death button, basically. You can get some good value out of it, but man, the moment you do a death button, you know, you're going to hear a Magneto ult, you're going to hear Iron Man ult even, you're going to hear a Punisher ult, Thor ult, like, Namor ult, yeah. You know, it's not really worth it to have Jeff when you could use any one of the other crazy, absurd supports right now. Like, I feel like Jeff is good in B tier. Speaking of the crazy supports, Loki. You know? Supports are good, so Loki's good. You know? Like, plain and simple. He builds his ultimate really fast. You copy whoever else you got on your team, or if you can reach whoever they got on their team that looks appetizing, and you just dominate, you know? You just clear. I don't think there's much of a conversation to be had here. I feel like that makes perfect sense. So, yeah. Luna fell off. Her Snowflake does a lot. I'm gonna put her in A. She could go down to B. For now, I'm gonna put her in A. But, man, with Adam Warlock, she's really good because she has that team up and she doesn't die. I feel like she's still solid enough that she can hold her own and she can be in double support and she can, you know, really do what she needs to do, right? Be a support and do enough damage and, you know, contribute to the team, you know, provide a lot of value. But she does not have the healing output that some of these other characters do. And her ultimate, you know, she's got a good ultimate as well. So I think she belongs in A. I don't think she belongs in B. I feel like a lot of people put her in B at the start of the season. And, you know, as things have progressed, I don't think she belongs in B. I feel like she sits well in A. I think the Snowflake changes to her probably made the difference for her. So I'm going to leave her in A. Magic kind of needs the Strange team up, or needs a ton of investment to be really good on her combos, to be able to one-shot. You know, her ult does a lot. Her ult can change some stuff, but I don't think that she really does, as much value as a lot of the other DPS. You have to get so up close, you have to get so in their face, and trying to dive any support right now is just a death sentence. It really is. I think with the Strange team up, they probably both bump up to A, because then she can help push back some of the tanks. But, she feels like Psylocke a bit, where she kind of can help bully the tanks, bully some of the DPS, but her ultimate does not provide the value that Psylocke's does. You can't just jump into the back line and win, right? So, I think she deserves B, because I don't think she's too far gone as to need C. Yeah, I think she's only one degree removed from A. This one, Magneto, I don't think I have to say anything. I think this is pretty cut and dry. He has 2 bubbles. His ultimate's incredible. I don't remember a season where he's not been S. I don't think I have to explain anything. I'm just moving on. Mantis is a tricky one. She really is. Because I can't put her in S. Because if you don't know what you're doing, she provides as much value as... if you don't know what you're doing with Mantis, she's probably the worst support. If you know what you're doing with Mantis, she's probably an S. So, if it's between B and S, she's probably an A. I get the pro play, I get the understanding with that, how well she can be, how well she can do overall, but, I feel like she has the biggest floor to her. There's a pretty steep curve into learning how to use her, and if you don't understand the character, if you don't understand the kit, you're kind of just, going with the flow and seeing how things end up. And that's not enough, especially with the other supports, especially how things are going. She has a crazy high ceiling that you can use, and you can make her do some insane things, especially in pro play. But if you're not well versed in her, if you don't really know what you're doing, she's got a really crazy low floor as well. So I'm going to put her in A. I think that's a good medium based on her capability, right? Because you gotta take into account all angles, I feel like you gotta take into account all angles for her. Moon Knight, Moon Knight's pretty solid, I think. He's a team-up anchor. He is really good at one thing, So I kind of want to put him in B, but I also am kind of concerned about how crowded B is getting, I also don't really need to worry about that, so I might just bump him down. I think Moon Knight deserves B. Yeah, think about it again. I think Moon Knight deserves B. Because he's really good at chokes, he's really good at choke points and at just clearing the way, right? He gets his ultimate crazy fast. You can just throw, you don't really even need a knock. You just throw your stuff into the enemy team. Usually the team is close enough. It bounces around, it bounces a ton. You get your ult first, absolutely insane, and you just clear away this small amount of room, right? As fast as he builds ult, as fast as he builds his ult, as fast as he can do stuff and be able to get away with it, now that he's got 2 of his crescent moon things, crescent moon slashes or whatever, his right clicks, I think, he might actually be an A, because, like, he could kill a support before they gain ult and just be away with them, right? Because not every support can actually get out of a Moon Knight ult if you place it well, right? So he might actually be the decent solution, a diver that doesn't dive, basically. You throw your stuff into the backline, you throw your stuff even at the tanks, and it just bounces around to the backline. And then once you get your ult, very quickly you just throw it at the backline and you're good to go. I think that's probably the best place for him, yeah. Yeah, I really turned myself around on this. I think A is probably a good place for him. Namor, my First Lord character. Really tragic. He's the king of the B section, okay? He's the king of the B ranking. He really is. Because he's one team up away from being an A, right? He's one team up, he's got the Hela team up that the moment that he and Hela are on the same team, he's an A immediately. Immediately. Like, and this has been the cycle with Namor, right? He gets a great team up, they take away his solo value and put it all in the team up. That lasts for a bit, and then he becomes too dependent on the team up. They give it back to him as a solo character. Team up becomes worse. They phase out the team up. They bring in a new team up. They put his value back in the team up. The cycle begins anew. So it's, I just am waiting for the day that they make Namor the team up anchor, right? They make Namor the team up anchor, and his team up anchor bonus is a third squid. Okay? That's all I'm asking for. Just give him a third squid as the team up anchor. Let him team up with anyone. I don't care. Okay? Let it be Captain America. Let it be Black Panther. Let it be Moon Knight. Like, team up with Deadpool. I don't care. I really don't. Just let Namor be the team up anchor and give him a third squid. Don't make it have freeze powers. Don't make it have gamma powers or death powers or anything. No, just give him a third squid. That's all you need. I think that'll put him in the A tier. I think that'll give him enough value to really stay consistent. That's my little rant. On to an interesting character that sounds like she should be in B tier, but is actually an A after her recent changes. So, the way that Penny works with the team up and with certain maps and stuff, she honestly works like a B tier character, but in A tier. She's 1 degree away from S tier, basically. In some maps, in some circumstances, with certain choke points, with certain, only a couple pathways to enter and take point, Penny becomes a really big deal, right? Because you can only come in through a couple entrances, and she can just shut all of those down, right? And with the Rocket team up, giving her a second nest, it just boosts her value even more. But with the healing at the nest, with the bombs, with the way that she's been improved on recently, I'm not that crazy of a Penny player, and I've been able to carry on Penny at the moment. Like, she's not a 4-star character, okay? She is in game, but she shouldn't be. She really shouldn't be. 3 stars at most, I think. She's really easy to use. And you can really get creative with her, depending on the team up, depending on how you place the nests and you place the bombs. You can really get some pretty good value with her. And she has the capability to go even higher. So I think she belongs in A with, team ups and stuff pushing her up to S. Like a B character would push up to A, but, I think she's consistent enough in A to belong there. Psylocke, kind of like I said with Magic, you know, she just bullies the tanks, bullies the DPS, and then jumps to your backline and pops her ult, and there's nothing they can do, right? She's like one of the few dive characters remaining that actually can do dive, you know? She actually can do enough damage through what the supports can do right now, which is, you know, honestly a big deal, I think. So I think she definitely belongs in S, because anything that can push through the support madness, you know, I think really belongs in S right now. And she's got enough stuff, she's got enough movement in her kit that allows her to do whatever she wants, you know, movement-wise, and get away from stuff that she really needs to. You can counter her, you can get around that, but default, I think she's definitely worth the S ranking. Rocket, I think, is right up there with Penny, for the same reasons, you know, with the team up, he goes up to S, but without the team up, you know, he's got really good movement that they're nerfing slightly. I don't really think it's going to do anything, but he's got really good movement, he's got pretty decent healing. You don't ever have to use his real basic gun. You just right click every time and just heal everyone for infinity. His revive is really powerful. A rocket, Atom, and then third support lineup is really powerful because basically no one dies, right? It's a good use of resources, I think. Yeah, I think he's just all around solid because you can just hide in the corner like the rat he is and just be good to go, you know? All Rigby style. Scarlet Witch, you almost made it, and they had to nerf you. You almost made it up here. You know, I'll place you here just so you can see how it looks. But man, they put you back down. She was so close, man. She was so close. You know? And then they just took it away. It requires time. You know, if you're not in the metal ranks, it requires time and a lot of experience on the character to know what to do in really difficult circumstances, but I think she just is so niche, and, you know, her ultimate still can just be cancelled so many ways that she belongs in C. I don't think she's bad enough to be in D, but I think she just has to be in C, you know, because you gotta have someone to help new players learn, and that's Scarlet Witch. Someone who is not for new players to learn immediately, but belongs right beside her, is Spider-Man. I really agree with the take that they should, you know, they should lower his range of the pull so that you can increase his everything else, basically. You know, give him a better combo, give him better this, a better that. They gave him a better team up with Penny. Oh, by the way, I think that Penny's gonna go back down to B at least. Most likely once her changes are implemented, because when she loses that team up, like, you know, the ceiling is going to lower so much. You know, she's gonna fall, I think. Probably not very far, but at least down to B, most likely. But you know what? We'll see. Back to Spider-Man. I think his changes will help. You know, having the Penny team up will be a good combo. But for now, he's definitely C. You definitely have to be near a ledge You have to have so much time on the character to have those combos good to go, to have the pull good to go, to have all that just ready. But man, like, I don't know if he's worth it. I don't know if the investment is worth it right now. You know, you can use all your cooldowns like Black Panther, you can use all your cooldowns, and the strategist can just turn to their friend and patty cake and be perfectly fine, you know. You can jump in and solo ult and, you know, do nothing. So, I just don't think you have enough value to bring. So for now, I think with probably the easiest character, you know, hardest character with the easiest character, both belong in C, I think, at the moment. It's unfortunate, but I think it's true. Squirrel Girl. Man, I hate this character. Man, I hate this character, man. I want to say B, but I don't know if there's any reason why I want to say B, except that I just hate the character. I think I have to put her in A, because her ultimate is good if no one cares about it, which a lot of the time no one cares, because they're like, just leave it to someone else. You know, I see even in high elo lobbies, like, people do that same thing. People just seem to not care about her ultimate when you just need to shoot at it a little bit and you're good to go and you just go back to what you're doing. A big deal of it, though, is, like, you have to turn your attention away from what you're currently doing to the ultimate, and, you know, a lot of the time she points at the supports, obviously. And now you basically do what dive characters do, right? You turn your attention away from healing the tanks, and immediately, you know, they gotta worry about that. The tanks maybe gotta worry about that, and you might have someone die simply because they're focused on her ult before anything else, and if they don't focus on the ult, they die anyway, you know? She's got long range, damage enough, her team up doesn't matter at all. It basically doesn't exist, I almost never see it, but, you know, that's the rundown on her. I just don't like her. I'm a tank main, okay? I just don't like Squirrel Girl. Can I say that? I'm allowed to say that, right? I just don't like her. Yeah. I think she's good enough for A, but man, do I want to put her in B. Like, I just don't think that she's better on one map or another. I think that she's pretty consistent one way, you know. I don't think she gets better with one map or another. I think she's pretty consistent with her damage and with her pretty much everything against most teams. So I think she's just good in A. I want to put her in B, but I don't see the reason. I gotta pick up the pace, because I just saw how long this video is. So, we're gonna pick things up. Star-Lord is going in S. He's got the damage, he's got the mobility. He can do so much that, you know, other characters can't, honestly. You know, he can dive the front line, the mid line, the back line, you know, and pretty seamlessly go between them and get out without a trace. You know, he can dodge crazy incoming projectiles like they're nothing, right? So many ultimates, he just, you know, uses his dodge and he's done, you know, and it's just gone. Doesn't even matter. So, for those reasons, for the fact that he can get in and out and basically be untouched, like, he's got to go in S. Storm, I think she needs the right team comp. You know, like Storm and Jeff together. I feel like Storm and some poke characters do well, and then she and the poke characters sit back and do stuff. But, you know, I think if she had more direct power, if she, and, you know, had more team buffing, with her circles and stuff, which I don't think they should do more, but if she had more, then she could really determine the play, how the teams play and how the teams move and the whatnot. Kind of like a Gambit feel. But she doesn't. She just kind of either sits in the front and is in range to just get killed, or she sits in the back and lets people poke, right? So it's kind of a win-lose scenario no matter what, unfortunately. So I think she belongs in B. I think she needs some good teammates to get some good value. Punisher's really consistent. He's really solid, I think. But I think because he's so solid, because he's A or S, who else is left? We got quite a few S's left, I think. But we also have quite a few A's left. I'll put him in S for now, and we'll see how things go. Because the diving shotgun Punisher has really become a big deal. At the latter end of the season. Where you use the zip line, and then you jump halfway through, so you keep the momentum. You don't actually get to the end where it slows you down. You keep the momentum by jumping halfway through, and then you get launched somewhere, and then you switch to shotgun, and you just basically up here somewhere and just shotgun someone in the face and they die immediately, right? It's a pretty suitable way to deal with these crazy supports. It's like if they don't see you coming, if you just appear and one-shot them, you can't heal that. You just cannot heal that. And because he has that versatility to be a backline poke, to have the crazy turret that shows up, with the explosive rounds and everything, to worry about these couple of flyers that are here every once in a while, I feel like he just has enough tools, he has enough guns to, to justify being put in S. I really do. For another sleeper pick, Thor. I feel like Thor also belongs in A. Thor is definitely not bad at all. He doesn't need anything. He's like good to go. With the mobility changes that he got, like he's really pretty consistent, I wouldn't say that he's dominating enough that he requires, certain bans or anything. To me, like, the S tier is like characters worthy of being banned. They're the characters that really should be banned in one way or another. I don't think Thor is worthy of a ban. I don't think that at all. I just think he's really consistent. He's got great mobility now, and he deals a lot of damage. He really does. So, for those reasons, I do think that Thor is, like, really consistent. I think he belongs in A. I think Venom is either A, I think B. A or B for Venom. I think B. Because he needs the right team comp, especially with how strategists are right now. It's really hard to dive. It's really hard to dive. And the thing can shut you down in an instant, basically prevent you from doing anything, so you have to be careful of the team, you have to be careful of who you're going into, right? If you're the only one diving, you gotta be really careful, because, everyone could turn their attention to you and you just pop, you just die immediately, and you can't get out or anything. He's one above Spider-Man because he is a tank and because he has his E where he can get that, boost to health, and he can do a lot of damage, In Season 5, he was S tier, right? He was amazing. But Thing has just become so just all-encompassing for anti-dive, and strategists have become so crazy. Like, I just don't think that I can place him any higher than B. Right now, until we get some of these strategist nerfs in, like, I think he has to be in B. Someone who's not in B, for sure, the server admin, Winter Soldier. He's got 3 shots. He can use those 3 shots to kill you. If you're a squishy character, all 3 of those shots can be used to just murk you, to just take you out completely. Is what it is, His ultimate, still crazy. If you get the resets, it's still absurd, still does crazy things. Knocks flyers out of the sky, He's got the pull, and the grounding, and the slow. You pull someone into your team, the strategists alone just completely destroy them. And that's crazy to think about, but it's true right now, You pull someone into your team, and the strategists behind you just completely annihilate them. It's crazy to think about, but it's true. Last for the initial release of the game is Wolverine. I feel like Wolverine fits in B, because he does not run in every lineup. You don't run Wolverine in every lineup if you are going against a group. That's CC immune now. You can't really run Wolverine, if you go against an Emma, if you go against a Thing, though there are ways to get around a Thing. If you go against an Angela, he's a tank killer, right? Like, he can really mess up, like, a Thor, a Doctor Strange, even a Captain America, a Penny sometimes, if she's out of place. But he's not like a blanket tank destroyer anymore, He's good, don't get me wrong, he's got a great team up with Phoenix, but he just, it's difficult. It's difficult to really make him work, right? He doesn't work against every lineup, is what I'm trying to say. So this is the original cast, ranked. I'm gonna rank everyone else that's come out since, but I just want to take a moment and actually look at this, and recognize, like, hey, this is the original cast. I'm glad that there are so many still at the top. There's plenty in the B category, honestly. I feel like there are more characters in B this season than in a lot of other seasons, But I do like that it's still very top heavy. This game has always been very top heavy. There's been a couple that have been low ranked, but like, you have to have someone at the bottom to have someone at the top. And you can quote me on that. I don't care if you quote me, whatever. Season 1. Season 1, Mr. Fent. Mr. Fantastic. B or C? I think B. I think he's like one good team comp away from, really being extremely effective, from being fantastic. See what I did there? Yeah, whatever. I think it's just an issue of, if he goes too far, he can't really be saved by strategists. If he gets targeted, he kind of gets, nuked out. You kind of need to run Sue with the guy, or else he just kind of, he might get overwhelmed at one point or another. But I think you can run him without Sue. I think that you can run him, if you're good with the guy, if you know what you're doing, I think you can run him pretty consistently in most lineups, So you either have to run him in the right lineup, or you have to be really good at him, and then you can run him in pretty much most lineups, I would say. And unless everyone targets you at once, and you're the only tank, which is very unlikely, you know, then you're kind of, you should be good to go. Let's get this out of the way with. Absolute server admin overlord. Um, I always call Jeff a war criminal, but Sue is starting to get some serious war crimes under her belt. Like, man, I'm sorry, divers. Like, I should have had a trigger warning for her. I really should have, but too late. She's up there. She is absurd, man. That solo shield, is crazy. It has made the difference between her being a good S tier character to like an absolute demon of the backlines. She makes it so that you cannot have dive. You have to get creative and have Punisher shotgun techs, and have crazy things like that to be able to counter her. And even then, it doesn't always work. She can 1v1 basically every character in the cast, except maybe herself. I'm glad that they're making adjustments to her shield. That is the thing that took her from an S to an S beyond character. We'll see if she makes it to to the ones above all tier, but she is really, she's really something. She's really a crazy character. It's really crazy what they've done with her. Human Torch, Johnny Storm, I think, is probably in Z. Johnny, I think you have to run in a specific team lineup. Well, you have to be good at the guy, for one thing. Actually, for one thing, you have to choose him. We have the pick and ban rates, and this guy was, like, the least chosen character in almost every regard, Like, you gotta pick the character in order to use him, right? So, I think you gotta be decent at him, which is uncommon. You probably want to use him with Sue. You probably want to have Sue. Actually, they changed some stuff about him, right? See, this is the thing. I haven't even thought about him, because he hasn't existed anywhere. I think I'm gonna put him up to B. I just haven't seen him anywhere, so I don't know, right? He's kind of the Groot issue. Like, I think the Groot belongs in S tier, but that's barely a thing that's in practice. I don't see the guy. I don't see him almost anywhere, right? I think he belongs in B. I do. I think he has the tools to belong in B. I think he, the up close changes and everything, he can do the damage. He can do what needs to be done and really get things done in B tier. But it's all conceptual. I just need to see more of him. Please, if you're thinking about picking him up, try him. I think he's good again. I just don't feel confident putting him in A at the moment, because I haven't seen enough of him, right? I haven't seen enough of him to say that he is worthy of the A tier, that he's worthy of holding his own at the moment, especially because of how good Poke is right now, and how good some of the other flying characters are. Like, I just don't think that I can confidently put him in A. Someone who I think can be put in A, though. This could be controversial, but I'm going to say the Thing. I really am. Thing is a really solid character now. His right click does 10% of a character's, of anyone's max health, which is crazy because he's a brawler and he hits tanks a lot. He shuts down dive as if that's needed. But he really shuts down dive even more, because you jump in, he uses his shift for 5 seconds, you cannot move. He is like the biggest counter to Captain America, right? He's the biggest counter to Captain America. It's really crazy. Cap jumps in and he can't jump out. You know, as much as he wants to reposition, he's stuck. Thing is a sleeper pick. I think in some circumstances he really just dominates, but there are some characters that do really shut him down, and he shuts other characters down. I think he's at enough of a balance that kind of like Mantis. You know, in some cases he's S, in some cases he's B, so I'm going to put him in that A category, right? I feel like that's an appropriate, fair placement of this character. Another appropriate and fair placement of a character, Emma Frost in S. I don't know why they're giving her buffs. You know, I think she might be a server admin. Absolutely absurd character next season, you know, but I guess she has a negative win rate, so they gotta do something for the White Queen. Like, I guess they gotta do something, right? I don't know, man. It's beyond me why they're changing anything. I think she's good enough. Ultron's either A or B, I think. With 2 drones, he has enough value, I think, to be in double support. But I just don't know if he... Poke is a really big deal right now. And if you look at who's in S right now, like, you know, Winter Soldier, Punisher, Star-Lord, Psylocke even, Hela, you know, all of those characters can take out Ultron really easily. So I really wonder if it would, you know, if you want to put him in B, if you say that he just needs some specific bands, if he needs some this or that, I just don't know if I feel confident putting him in A, because I don't think you want to run him every single match. You know, I feel like you want to run him if you have triple support, or if you have maybe a crazy Iron Man player, or a crazy Squirrel Girl player even, you know. I'm gonna put him in B, because he's kind of one of those characters I don't see a ton as well. Definitely not as little as I see Human Torch, but he's one of those characters I just don't see very often. You know, he's good, but I can't prove it, right? I'm gonna put him in B because I do think he excels in triple support, and I think he has the capacity to really succeed in the right circumstances, but I can't approve him being used in every single match, you know? Yeah. Like, even Thing, like, Emma Frost completely counters Thing, you know? Like, she can grab him, sure, she can't kick him, but, you know, she just melts the guy with the damage that she does. Even still, you can run Thing against Emma and win, right? If you get enough heals, if you have a team behind you, you can run Thing against Emma every time and be perfectly fine, you know? Some people even prefer running Thing against Emma. It's, you know, it's pretty crazy. That's Season 2. On to Season 3. Phoenix is just like Hela. You know, very similar. I think she has a better ult. Her ult is actually incredible. It's actually crazy how powerful, how strong her ult is. Comboed with literally anything, it does crazy, incredible amounts of damage, incredible amounts of value. Basically makes it so Rocket, so that Penny, so that Hela can't play the game, you know? Namor even can't play the game. Anyone that places things down, you know? She's crazy. She's got a long distance stun. She's really good. Who's not really good though is Blade. Blade really needs something. I'm glad that they're fixing things. They're swapping his lifesteal between his sword and shotgun. I'm really glad that they're doing that because I think it makes more sense on his sword. But we're not talking about season 6. We're talking about season 5.5, and I'm trying to decide if I want to put him in C or in D, because I really don't think he is. I don't think there's a niche use for him. I feel like he's more of the do not play character, I really. Yeah, I think he's worse than Scarlet Witch. I think he's worse than Iron Man and Spider-Man right now. I don't see a specific use that Blade fills. He's good against, really overwhelming certain tanks, but that's a crazy niche thing. And then your supports have to be on the lookout for you and make sure that you don't get too low and heal you more than normal, because your health prevention thing, like it's a whole can of worms. I hope that the Blade changes fix things for you. I really do. You Blade players, I really do. I hope that the Blade fixes, fix you guys, because I want you guys to have fun, and I think you will have more fun as things go. But for now, I think D is an appropriate place. On to season 4. I'm gonna say Angela is an A. A for Angela. Angela and Cap fill a very similar role. Angela can obviously take people off the map a lot more. She stalls just like Cap does. She flies just like Cap, jumps around and everything. Angela, I feel like you could play in any match, and she's very difficult to counter, even. Thing counters her pretty well, but you can still play Angela into Thing very easily, very reliably, very consistently. And I would say Angela probably can take Thor up to an S tier if you really know what you're doing with him. That might be out of my mind kind of take, but I think that's a very possible option. Now to just, there we go. Need I say more? The only dive character that's still allowed to dive, and it basically doesn't care. The strategists are as good as they are. He still does what he wants, and he still gets what he wants, and he still gets the same results as before, and they're about to take him out behind the shed and neuter him, so, kind of gotta give him the respect he deserves now, and rank him as high as he deserves right now, because, I don't want to wake up and learn I have a lawyer out of nowhere, if you get my drift. Yeah, I don't know if I need to say more about Daredevil. He's pretty cut and dry. He's extremely good. He's like the only diver that is still allowed to do what he wants, like I said. On to season 5. These brand new characters. Gambit, incredible. Every tool in the toolbox. Plus the craziest ult to ever exist as a strategist. He's a permaban, basically. If you don't have, if one team has Gambit and the other team doesn't, GG's, Whoever's Gambit wins, just flat out. Whoever's Gambit wins. If he's not banned, you have to play him, basically, because his ultimate's too good. It just is what it is. There's not really much you can say about it. Again, need I say more? He's cut and dry. Now for the girl herself, Rogue. Where in the world do we put you? Now this may not shock everyone, I'm gonna put her in B. You know, maybe my favorite tier to put people. I don't know. You could do a case study on it, I guess. I think she is pretty good. She has really long cooldowns, obviously. If you play her, obviously, like, if you know how to play her, she gets better. But I don't think that she's, like, a crazy difficult character to learn. She's 5 stars in game, but I don't think that she's a crazy difficult character to learn, right? The star system's all out of whack. Like, Spider-Man deserves to be 5 stars. Rogue is harder to learn, but she's not 5 stars. She's just not. Okay? I put her in B because I think she needs the Gambit team up to really provide, like, really solid, consistent value. Otherwise, she kind of is more of a niche pick. You know, she's good in some circumstances and worse in some other ones. But overall, I think she's a pretty decent pick. You know, she's a solid character. I think she's good. I'm surprised they didn't do anything to her in the patch notes, you know. I thought that they would have given her something, right? Anything at all. But I'm surprised they didn't. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for. The ones above all, where I say who the best character in every single role is. So, let's get the easy one out of the way. Strategist. You know? It's only really between Gambit and Invis. Between one of these two. It's Gambit. No question about it. It's Gambit. His ultimate's too good. It does too much. His kit has too many things in it. He can do too much. Okay. They've really changed that, you know, like with the patch notes, and, you know, we'll see in a couple hours. We'll see how he does. I think he might be relegated to a triple support lineup at this point. But, you know, as he was, I guess, in 5.5, like, Invis is great. Invis can duel and do all of this stuff, and her personal shield does all this stuff great. She's a backline character. Okay? She still has a support ultimate. That's a circle that heals people in the circle, and that's it. Right? You use it when you need a support ult. Gambit's ultimate is so much more versatile. It's a go button. You have, you know, like, I don't care if you're a Spider-Man that just used all of his cooldowns and is walking. If Gambit presses, you know, the go button, you're walking up to the tank and you're punching them in the face. Okay? I don't care. I don't care if you have no swings, if you have no nothing. You're moving forward and you're punching the guy in the face because Gambit popped his ult. Okay? It's not up to you. Gambit popped his ult. You're doing this. Okay? It's so influential. You know, there's almost nothing you can say about it. Like, he has too much in his kit. You know, he can, with press of 2 buttons, heal up his entire team. Press of 2 buttons, cleanse his entire team from an ult. Press of 2 buttons, apply healing immunity to a character that's low, or a character that is, you know, that dove into your team. Whatever the case. Or apply healing immunity to a character on the other side of the map. Doesn't matter. You know? Like, he has too many things in his kit. He just has too many things in his kit. He has to be one above all for support. He has to be. Okay? Invis is crazy powerful, but Gambit has to be one above all. For DPS. DPS, I feel like, is another pretty clear choice. You know, there are a lot of DPS up in this S tier, right? Like, half, if not more, I think, of these characters are DPS characters, but I mean, who saw that coming? Like, I think that's pretty obvious. Like I said, Daredevil is the only dive character that can still dive, even as Invis is an absurdly amazing character. He can still do whatever he wants and live, you know? Like, there's that clip of Necros using Daredevil to wail away on Jeff in triple support. And he doesn't die as Daredevil for like 10-15 seconds. He's the only one occupying 3 support characters at once. And the clip obviously was meant to show that triple support is absurd and there's way too much healing at the moment. Yeah, whatever. The fact that you can just sit there and stand still as a DPS in the middle of a firefight, in the middle of 3 supports, and just, it doesn't matter, you're just able to tank it all and continue to live and continue to do what you need to do and do damage and get over health all at the same time. It's so much. Plus, this might be Daredevil's peak because it looks like they were going to take him behind the shed and absolutely slaughter the guy. We'll see what ends up happening, but I do feel like that's coming. Yeah, I think that Daredevil is probably the best DPS at the moment. There are some other good ones, obviously. Hela's got a good team up. Psylocke's good, but it's a lot of her ultimate that carries things. Punisher is really good, especially with the ways that people have adapted with him. But he just doesn't have the survivability that Daredevil does. Daredevil does, he's got a great team up with Punisher. He's got a really crazy ultimate that if you look at him, you die. Like, how busted is that? He's got the blind effect onto his opponents. He marks someone, he dashes to you, and then either you die or he runs away. Those are the only 2 options. Either you die and he gets to reset his dash to someone, or he runs away. He doesn't die. That's not in the cards. That's not an option. Okay? He will live, and he will just continue to fight. Too bad. None of these other DPS characters can say that. None of them. He's too good at what he does. Now for the last one above all character, the tank. It comes down to those in S tier, by the way. Those who end up in S tier, because they're already best of the best, so it has to be chosen from them. Between Groot, Magneto, and Emma Frost is the only tanks that made it up to this point. I feel like it's pretty clear. Magneto does too much. Magneto does too much. He does. 2 separate bubbles. He's got the team up that does really great, long, far away damage. He has a one-shot insta-kill combo. Maybe not one-shot, I guess, but he's got like a combo that he can use, the left click, right click, left click, to take a 300 health character down to 0. It takes some skill, obviously, but not as much as so many of these other combos take, right? Like, that is so much easier to perform than Magic's one-shot combo, than even like a Hela one-shot combo, right? Like, Hela can be pretty hard to do if you have no idea. If you can't aim to save your life, Hela can be a real problem to play. That's a whole other story. Magneto, he's him. His ultimate is crazy, right? His shield counters so many ultimates alone. He just puts it out there, and then shields just, all these different things just go into his shield and just disappear. his shields counter like half the ultimates in the game, and then his ultimate counters the rest. It's crazy. You know, he's him. He's crazy. You know, we'll see how things go from here, right? Let me check. I don't think... No, he doesn't get any changes. So I think he's going to be dominant again next season. You know, both of these guys are getting big changes, getting big nerfs to what they're doing, and Magneto's staying exactly the same. So, you know, unless Tank Deadpool becomes the one above all for the tanks, I really think that Magneto is gonna hold his throne as the best tank in the game. You know, he's good enough that people have started banning him. You know, and more than just Cloak and Dagger players, like real people have started banning him. Sorry, that's not fair to Cloak and Dagger players, but you know what I mean. Other people than just the people he counters specifically have started to ban him so that they don't have to worry about the amount of value that he provides to his team. And I think that is a crazy thing. I think that's absolutely absurd, like how much he does for the team, you know? And with that, that's Season 5.5 in review. You know, the current listings before Season 6 begins in, I guess, just a couple hours, very shortly. You know, I think even an hour or two at this point. This is probably going to be released on January 16th, the day that the you know, Season 6 begins. So, yeah. Hope this is helpful for anyone, and can't wait to see how things progress from here. I'm really excited to see how Deadpool fits into everything, and I'm actually really excited for the new map. You know, it's been too long since we've got a map. It's been way too long since we've got a map. But until next finale, hopefully I'll have a better map by then, but who knows, you could be stuck with robot me for a little bit longer. But until then, ignite the battle.